How we doing, guys? Welcome back to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Richie, and I am joined by my good friends, Mr. Michael Zappi and Mr. Idris Salam. How we doing, gents?
Guys, good. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Sunday. Not a lazy Sunday. Kind of moving around early. I know Zappi was running around with his family. I think Idris was happy when he found out we were starting at 5. I understand you took a nice little nap. But yeah, we got a lot to speak on. Big loss in the basketball world as a true icon passed away earlier today. We've got Patrick Mahomes that wants to speak on some of the weird criticisms that African-American quarterbacks face. And we've got a lot of MLB trade talk, a whole lot of MLB trade talk. We're also going to speak on Aaron Rodgers chasing that very elusive Roger Maris record and see if he can go even further with that. But we're going to start right here with the legend Bill Russell. Sad kind of caught me off guard. He was old. 88 years old is a long life, but he just seemed like one of those larger-than-life people that you never really thought was ever going to die, and I know amongst the NBA community, very much a treasure, a mentor to many, like no massive NBA star was too much of a star to want to reach out to Bill Russell for guidance, pick his brain, and basically just to try to be a friend of his. And, playing in the 60s during the civil rights movement, not always treated the best in his home city of Boston. Over time, he became a little abrasive in his own right with the fan base, the city. Over time, again, well-respected, loved, and treasured in that city. 11 championships, 8 in a row, something that you just will never see ever again. But whoever wants to hop on first, I want to roll it to you guys on your thoughts on the man.
Well, I mean, it's like you said, you talk about Bill Russell, and obviously we didn't have the opportunity to watch him play live. A lot of the stuff we've watched has been through highlights, whether SportsCenter, YouTube, whatever the case. But, one of the biggest question marks with him is why isn't he in the debate of being one of the GOATs? I mean, 8 championships in a row and 11 total, that's unheard of. I mean, Jordan had 6, Kobe had 5, LeBron's got 4, I mean, it's just like, I don't know how you cannot talk about him being it, even with the lineup he played with. But what he did for the game is, it's something else. And the fact that he's still there, or was still there for the players today to give him his input, I mean, it says a lot about the character that the man has. And a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that he did grow up during the civil rights movement. And, and especially in Boston, that says a lot about that man, because he could have easily just given it up and gone his other way, given up the game. But he didn't. He kept his foot down. He stood strong, stood high. And he continued on with a great life. 88 years old. May that guy rest in peace. It was unfortunate news to get today, but he will be remembered as one of the greatest for sure.
Yeah, I echo those same sentiments. Playing in the era he played in, a lot of racism, civil rights era, Boston, and a lot of stuff still goes on in Boston, but it's not as bad. And he was a little abrasive toward the fan base, and I say rightfully so, because it's like they didn't want to give him his due. And in terms of not being considered one of the greats, or even talk them on the greats, which he is, they blame the era he played in, saying like he went against garbage men. Or he went against good players. It wasn't a deep league, but they were still good players. You just don't walk in the NBA off the streets. So he played against the competition. He dominated. In fact, with him and George Mikan, he ushered in the big man era. The guy was an incredible rebounder, shot blocker. So you got to give him his due. I mean, 8 championships in a row and 11 championships total. That's not peas and carrots, man. That's meat right there. No, so you got to give him his due. You play the competition you have in front of you, and he dominated the competition he had in front of him. So you have to put that in the argument. He beat the best out there, and he was the best at what he did.
To answer Zappi's question about why he doesn't get regarded as one of the true GOATs, the whole with LeBron, Kobe, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, The best answer I could come up with is that people viewed him as not a full offensive player, but in the same breath, many would view him as probably the greatest defensive player ever. But this is where the question opens up on, are we valuing offense over defense? Because there were guys that sometimes get hella accolades that maybe weren't great defenders, but were phenomenal scorers. And I guess similar to most sports, I think as fans and as people even that are in the media, they tend to value offense over defense, which is not always right or fair. But Bill Russell, from a dominance level, there's no denying the greatness.
And you're absolutely right, because not to stay on the topic of the GOAT, but when you say the GOAT, I don't think of the greatest scorer. I think of the greatest all-around player. Ray Allen said it best to that young man a couple weeks ago when that guy was saying, oh, LeBron's the GOAT. And he turned around and looked at him. He's like, is he the greatest assist player of all time? No. Is he the greatest defensive player? Or, we can make arguments about every player to have ever played the game of basketball or football or baseball, and everyone can give their 2 cents on why they believe this person is the GOAT. That's why, quite frankly, it's always going to go down to the GOAT of that era, because he played the competition that was put before him. You are told in sports, you play your schedule. Oh, we have the easiest schedule in the NFL. Damn. You play that schedule, you go out and you go get yourself a number 1 seed, because the real football starts in the playoffs, or baseball in the playoffs. So you can't fault Bill Russell, because the guy he was a warrior. He was a great basketball player. And it's not his fault that the talent level was not the greatest back then. But, we could sit here and talk about basketball in the 90s and 80s, how much dirtier it was. Those were some – think about the Pistons. Those guys, they would rough you up. but it's just now if we compare it to today's league, it's such a ticky-tack league where everything is a foul. So I agree wholeheartedly that I believe Bill Russell is one of the greatest, and he was definitely the great of his era, because that's what it comes down to nowadays. We're never going to solve this conversation of the GOAT.
What I like about sorry, you go ahead. I'm going to add to this. When you're done, I want to add to something you said earlier. You're on.
The way I see it is he was a big man who dominated in the big man era. He beat all the big men. So hey. That's it for me.
No.
Idris made a great point. Idris made a great point about he literally ushered in the big man era. And to put that in perspective, the big man era lasted pretty much until, I would say, Jordan's first three-peat, when the power truly changed to being the guard's game. You could maybe make an argument that Isaiah already had that in motion. You could even go as far as saying that Bird and Magic did, but Bird and Magic also had Robert Parrish and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So very much so, despite the dynamic play of those two men, it was still a big man's game. And you look at those Sixer teams with Moses Malone, and there are other great centers in that era. The defense versus offensive argument, Bill Russell got the best more frequently of Wilt Chamberlain, and Wilt Chamberlain is most known, in addition to being arguably the greatest center of all time, scoring 100 points in a game. So I think that puts in perspective the impact that Bill Russell had. And off the court, like I said, really a treasure. Kind of like as football fans, how we feel like a guy like the late John Madden gave back to the game so much. I think the same could be said about Bill Russell, and it's something that we should remember him for, smile about, and celebrate. Really phenomenal human being passed on today.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was sad, man. It was sad. This is interesting. Patrick Mahomes feels that in many cases, African-American quarterbacks face weird and unfair scrutiny to their white counterparts. There's a lot of ways to look at this one. I do tend to believe that there is some validity to this on some levels, because I do believe that in some train of thinking, a lot of scouts going back to maybe the 80s, maybe the 90s, the NFL does particularly have a history of viewing black quarterbacks as athletes first. They did attempt to change Lamar Jackson's position. You want to go back a little further, the great Warren Moon had to go to the CFL before being able to showcase his talents in the NFL. A guy like the Rocket Ishmael, who didn't even play quarterback, just kind of making a mention, went to the CFL for financial gain. So I don't want people to think that the CFL didn't pay well, but everybody wants to play in the NFL. I think we all could agree on that. I like the way Cam Newton kind of explained it. He kind of likened it to how you do have, say, a white quarterback like, a white running back like a Christian McCaffrey, who is a minority at that position in the terms of an elite player. Whereas he tried to make the analogy that it's similar to a level with Caucasian quarterbacks versus African American quarterbacks because of the pool of how many play that position. Do I think there's some validity there? Yes. But having said that, I have seen it with maybe like stars that kind of shine quickly and crash down, a Michael Vick, a Cam Newton. Whereas if they weren't elite, it's almost like they weren't good enough to be on a roster. And that's where you kind of got to question things to a level. I do think Cam was playing well with New England before he got COVID. Then, quite frankly, he wasn't. Lamar Jackson has been questioned by many if he has the tools to be the total package in terms of reading defenses. And I think Mahomes is the one that stands out the most because he flat out can make all the throws. In addition to being a supreme athlete, we're going to find out a little more about how he deals with adversity, losing the likes of a Tyreek Hill. It'll be interesting. And Kyler Murray just got paid, but there was a big debate about Kyler not putting in the work in the film room. We're not going to question his God-given talents. What are your thoughts, gents? What do you think about all this?
Well, I see some validity to it. I can remember when Terry Bradshaw first played. I'm that old. And James Harris was the quarterback, and he was a good quarterback, but he was benched for Terry Bradshaw. And people said, "Why did you bench Harris when he was a good quarterback winning to put Bradshaw in?" And if you look at the history, Doug Williams, and I think what it is in recent years, and even going back to James Harris, I think people look more at the athleticism and expect them to be that athletic, dynamic quarterback. And if they don't produce the way they expect with the athleticism, then you're sitting down. The leash is pulled and like, okay, you did this, but it's like they know these guys are athletic, like Lamar Jackson, Mike Vick, and they say they know that these guys are not necessarily passers. They're like, mobile guys who can throw. I say running backs who can throw the ball. That's the way I look at them because of how dynamic they are. And I think people forget that these guys weren't 4,000-yard passes in college and 30 touchdown throws. That wasn't them. They were like 20 passing, 15 rushing, stuff like that. And I think the leash is short. You have to produce right away. And in terms of Kyler Murray, he's a victim of his own circumstances. I just never thought he may pan out, but I just never saw NFL quarterbacking. I'm just going to say it. I think he was more built on his ego, and I think he just seems lazy. And the clause they had in there where he had to watch 4 hours of film, I believe there's something to that, because they wouldn't just throw that in there just to say, okay, if we pay this amount of money, you got to watch film. It's just like Jamarcus Russell. Why would they do that if you weren't paying attention in the film? So, I mean, there's some validity to what Mahomes said. I think so. But I think in some cases, I think people expecting more out of these quarterbacks than what they're able to produce. You have to. Mike Vick didn't become a good passer until he left. When he came back from prison, that's when he became a passer because he had someone to teach him how to throw the ball.
And he lost some of his initial first step.
Yes. So I think they need to be taught how to be this type of quarterback that they want them to be. Steve Young, was a runner. They made him a pocket passer who could run the ball. You can be fixed. They have to put in the work on both sides. If that's what you want to be, that's what you'll be. And if that's what the coaches want, they'll teach you to be that way. It's crazy.
I think we may have lost Zappy momentarily. I'm going to see if I give him a second, see if he catches back in.
Oh, he's frozen. I didn't even know it.
No
but I'll keep going until you get it.
I'm just going to give him an opportunity to come back in.
Okay.
But what I will say is I do think that when some of the names we mentioned, the Cam Newtons, even the Lamar Jacksons, because their rise was so fast, and because, there is part in the sense that you take a guy like a Michael Vick. He was so ahead of his time in terms of how do you game plan for a player like a Michael Vick, or even a Randall Cunningham to a level when Randall was with Philadelphia. I don't think he was as dynamic as Vick, but he was an innovator in his own way. Right. I want to let Zappy speak on this as well.
Yeah.
He's back.
So what
I'm waiting for your mouth to move. I'm like, he's not frozen.
No, so what I thought you
just sit there, just listen. I was like, well, he just listened. So
I'm like, man, that guy's
I'm taking it to heart,
that guy's a great listener, man.
I'm taking it to heart.
It's all you, man. No, he froze up again.
Oh, man. Zappy over here looking like Weekend at Bernie's.
But yeah, you were saying until
we'll get him back. We'll get him back. He might have to move a few more steps into the house. Sometimes those garages could be a little tricky.
Oh, another Brit. Okay.
Yeah, no, for real. I'm sure Zappy will be coming back soon. I'm going to try to be a little patient with that. We'll keep rolling on this topic. There's validity on both sides. Not studying the playbook, that has absolutely nothing to do with your culture. That has to do with your work ethic. And there's many quarterbacks that take shortcuts in that regard. In the cases of a Michael Vick and in a Cam Newton, as I said already, I do believe that their peak was so quick, they caught the league off guard. And I think what happened with both these quarterbacks is that when the league caught on, they didn't necessarily make the adjustments.
Right.
But, historically, the NFL does have a track record of kind of pigeonholing black quarterbacks into being just athletes, or that they just rely on their God-given abilities. Whereas, it's a case-to-case basis. And I think that's the best way to put it.
There he is.
All right. We're going to try this one more time.
Cowboy Stadium.
Are we still on the same topic?
Yeah, I'm waiting for your 2 cents.
All right. So I see what Patrick Mahomes is saying. A lot of it is because of the fact that when we talk about the quarterback position, a lot of these black quarterbacks, they take their first read, and after that, they run. And when you think of the quarterback position, your job is to stay in the pocket. Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal outside the pocket, but it's easy to be phenomenal when you have the fastest receiver in the league running down the field. Now he doesn't have that. We could think back to the Super Bowl, which somehow they came back and won that game. Mahomes scrambles and he throws the ball deep where Nick Bosa was held, but he got Tyreek Hill, and after that, they win the game. Now we look at a Kyler Murray. That clause to study for 4 hours a week was put in there for a reason. Whatever, and obviously they just removed it a couple of days ago. They removed it because the media was all over it, and that's just the world we live in. If you give the media something, they're going to take it and run with it. But ultimately, answer me this question: how many black quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl? We have Doug Williams, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, I thought you froze up again.
No. I was seeing if we could think of anyone else, and that's what they looked at, and we can even focus on the last 20 years that have been controlled by Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, and Peyton Manning. So they're great for the game. But they're, like you said, Idris, they are running backs.
You got to teach them. They got to be taught to be, they got to be taught
quarterback.
to be
Because they might have been great option quarterbacks in college. The game of the NFL is a lot different in college. It's a lot faster. And RG3 and Colin Kaepernick quickly found that out when they came onto the scene, and then defenses figured them out. And what happened? They're both gone. So
that's how it always happens.
It does. Mahomes will have the luxury because he can throw the ball. The guy has got an arm. He can throw it deep. He can throw it accurately. He can throw it behind his back accurately. I mean, the guy is something else.
To add on what you just said. Okay, good.
No. Go ahead.
To add on what you just said, the black quarterbacks that had longevity were removed because he knew how to throw from the pocket. Doug Williams, he knew how to throw from the pocket.
Right.
Russell Williams knew how to throw from the pocket. He runs around because he never had an offensive line. Right. And Patrick Mahomes knows how to throw. You have to know how to throw from the pocket.
You have to.
Even
with a quarterback.
Yeah, even with Aaron Rodgers, he can run around, but he'll kill you in the pocket. You know.
Oh God.
He'll kill you
no question.
Yeah. So you have to be able to throw from the pocket. If you can't throw from the pocket,
I'm going to take this left for a second because I'm going to even break it down past race and just say the collegiate athlete. Because to Zappy's point, where certain black quarterbacks may not get that first read, and it's really tempting and it's really hard to not be tempted by, damn, I can get where I need to go, even though this isn't exactly what we're drawing up. But habits are habits. And the more you practice a habit, sometimes in crunch time, it can delay that part. To both your points, the pocket passing is what turns into the longevity aspect of it. It's been proven over time. But what I was saying about taking it far left, and while it's not so much always based on race, and it's also sometimes it's based on pure athleticism, you take a guy like a Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Tebow never made adjustments in Florida because he didn't have to. He had 5-star athletes everywhere. But then when he got to the pros, it was a cool little story. But the second that Peyton Manning was available, they were like, okay, kick rocks, dude. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you for beating Pittsburgh in the wild card last year. We're going to go ahead and go with Peyton Manning this time.
And we're going to thank Ryan Clark for having that issue with the altitude because he wasn't playing.
But, I look at it this way. Lamar Jackson can be a pocket passer, and he has shown glimpses of it. Let's think back to last year in that game against a great defense in the Colts. The guy went out there. He stood in the pocket most of the game, especially in the second half. He stood in the pocket. He totaled over 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and it was a great game. The times that he has shown those glimpses, and I do mean glimpses, he has shown great, but habits, it's hard to break a habit. And if you can't break that habit in the NFL especially, you're not going to have a long career. If that was the case, Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson would have been paid as quick as Josh Allen was paid, as quick as Patrick Mahomes was paid. But the fact that
Josh Allen in Wyoming was a running quarterback.
He
settled him down and made him throw the ball.
And Dak Prescott was a running quarterback at Mississippi State. He came into the NFL. He still ran the ball, but he has become a pocket passer. A lot of it has to do with that injury he suffered last year, but he has turned into a pocket passer, and you're going to see Dak's career go past 11, 12 years. So it's just that's the fact. If you want to be a quarterback, it does not matter the color of your skin. And what matters is that you play the position correctly and that you stay in the pocket. Yes, in the league, you run the damn ball to win, but you run the ball with your running backs, and your quarterback throws the ball.
You only run if you have to.
Exactly.
You take a look at our current quarterback, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Between the multitude of offensive coordinators and the multitude of injuries, while I do think he's shown glimpses of what he can do in both areas, once again, predominantly a running quarterback for a litany of reasons, more so forced because of the lack of weapons. And you see what happens. The man has been injured twice in the last 2 years. In closing on this particular topic, one thing I want to say is that there's truth to both sides of the coin. Zappy made a point about how many African-American quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl. And while that is 3 is valid, the other side of the coin could suggest, when did the opportunities truly open up? And that's what makes this a very cool conversation, because there's a lot of variables. But one thing I agree with all the way around is that history proves that being that pocket guy is going to get you to the next level.
The slowest quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, dude.
Longevity is the slowest quarterback is still winning the Super Bowl. I mean, we're talking about the slowest quarterback in league history, and he's about to be 55. I mean, come on.
75 years old, man.
Yeah, Social Security, I think, by the next Pro Bowl. My God.
It probably is. But
Eli
it just
Payton
goes to prove.
and Brady. Eli Payton and Brady, the slowest quarterback.
Yes.
Ever.
And Dan was pretty slow himself, too. And Phillip Rivers could have probably won a few Super Bowls, but he had to go up against Peyton, Brady, and Big Ben. You know, so it's not their fault, but I mean, it's just it goes to prove you stay in the pocket because you can read defenses, and quite frankly, a ball travels faster when it's thrown than it does when it's running.
I see Phillip Rivers as a victim of his era, similar to Dan Marino. Similar to other quarterbacks that were, I'm not going to say great, but good. Kosar did get a ring, if I'm not mistaken, as a member of the Cowboys as a backup. But when he was a starter, he got close a few times. But once again, victim of the era you play in. You could even make a case for Jim Kelly, because while those Buffalo teams were damn good, the real Super Bowl back then was the NFC title game. Cowboys, Skins, and Cowboys twice, Skins and Giants all beat the Bills. And the only game that was close was the first one.
Wide right.
Yes,
Troy
sir.
Troy, pocket quarterback. No.
We're going to veer it over to baseball. A lot of trade deadline talk, a lot that can still happen, a lot that's going to happen. And damn it, Yankees just lost. They had Aaron Judge. You saw. Okay, we'll get that.
So it was Judge. Did he have an opportunity for 43 or 44?
I believe he was on deck. I don't think he made the last out.
He's on deck.
Getting on this, Luis Castillo to the Seattle Mariners. Mariners were getting very hot prior to the break. And, you know, the Astros and Yankees have been the only two teams that most people want to talk about in the American League. But there are some teams in the wild card situation. You know, Zappy on a phone conversation said, hey, the Rays, if they get it right, they might knock out the Astros. They are very familiar. Yeah, Idris said that too. And now you got the Mariners that have two aces all of a sudden and playing good baseball. And they're actually going to be making a trip to the Bronx tomorrow. And Castillo will pitch in this series.
Yep.
Did the Yankees make a big mistake by not acquiring him? Or do you think the haul was too much?
I don't necessarily think that the Yankees made a mistake. I think it's what the Yankees had to offer. You look at their farm system, the Yankees farm system is not that great. That's one thing. And Castillo, I mean, the Rangers were in the conversation for Luis Castillo. And I look at what we would have had to have given up comparing to what Seattle gave up. I don't know if I would have been happy with that trade, even though we need a pitcher too. However, Castillo was the best pitcher available. This is a pretty dry market this year for pitchers with this upcoming trade deadline. I told you the last time we were on, I think Frankie Montas is going to be the guy that you guys trade for. It's your consolation prize. But for the Yankees to have gone all in on a guy like Luis Castillo, I don't necessarily think you guys had enough from the farm system to get him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it ultimately came down to. To get him, you would have had to have given up someone big, and I don't know if the Yankees want to do that, especially with the run you guys are making. But it is clear as day. It's between the Astros and the Yankees. If they face off in the ALCS, the Astros have much better pitching. The Yankees need another starter in there, and that's why it might be Frankie Montas. I truly believe it's going to be him. In the back of my mind, I think there's one other pitcher that might be there, but yeah, I think they made a mistake, but a mistake that they didn't intend to make, if that makes sense.
I think the farm system is good. So I disagree with you to a level, but this is the thing. It's top heavy. And to your point, they weren't going to offer the Jason Dominguez's, the Perazzas, the Austin Wells. They were going to try to figure out a way to maybe offer one of them with a lot of C and B guys. And the other thing, too, and this is a known fact, when the Yankees do business and might try to make deadline deals, most teams want to get more off of the Yankees than other teams because, let's be real, the Yankees have a lot of wealth, and they usually have money to burn. You know, they've been making an effort to be under that luxury tax, but that's also a very real thing.
Yeah, and that's why I texted you yesterday. I say, you know, as much as it pings me to say it, I would not be surprised if there's a trade that comes into play here, and it involves a Joey Gallo, and it involves Martin Perez. Martin Perez is on his last year with the Rangers. He has stated he wants to stay with Texas. Texas wants him to stay, but there's been no progress made on a contract. So then it brings Joey Gallo. We had a long talk about him the other day. I truthfully believe he wants to go back to Texas, and I believe Texas will welcome him back with open arms. I could see a situation where Martin Perez, who's having a phenomenal season, what is he, 9-2 now on the season for the Rangers? He's pitching great baseball. It took him a few years to get going. He is a little older, I believe 31 now. But, I mean, he would help fill that void. I believe the pitcher that the Yankees are going to trade for is coming out of the AL West.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Montez or your guy Perez. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Those
yeah, mine is me. I'm saying Montez to the Yankees, Gallo to the Brewers.
Brewers can use him too.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's actually that's interesting because the Brewers have struggled in terms of power. And the thing is, do I think Joey Gallo is as bad as he's playing? No, I don't think he's made to play in New York. That New York pressure is something very different.
The beast.
It's very real. It's
hard. It's hard. You gotta have you gotta have your heart in an iron box, man, because if you just smell like you're gonna look bad in New York, the fans in the media, you might as well be hung up on the cross. Because
now keeping yeah. Oh yeah, they'll love you back when you produce, but when you're going through it, they don't care who you are, and nobody's above getting booed in New York.
Nobody.
Two guys that we're going to keep the theme on New York for a moment that have experience playing in big markets. David Robertson has been a Cub, producing as a great closer this year. Wilson Contreras, a premier catcher. These guys playing in the second city in Chicago. D-Rob has 2 stints previously with the New York Yankees. He was a member of the 2009 team that won the World Series. The Mets, I do think, are going to pull this off. That's my opinion on this trade. I think it addresses the 2 biggest needs on the Mets team. They need a bridge to get to Diaz, and they need more production at the catcher position because they're not getting it with McCann.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I do think that trade is going to happen, but once the word came out yesterday that everyone on Boston was available with the exception of Xander Bogaerts, there's just that little, Christian Vasquez makes so much sense. He's a good catcher for the Red Sox. And if he comes over to New York, I mean, Boston's also a big market area. He's under the bright lights all the time. He would slide right in and fit perfectly. You include a J.D. Martinez out there, not to mention the Mets are getting Jason DeGrom back on Tuesday. I mean,
yeah, Jacob DeGrom. Jake's coming back. Tuesday.
So it's however much you hate the Mets, Richie, they're gonna make a trade for a pitcher. Oh, so Idris as well. They're gonna make a trade for a pitcher. Obviously, the goal is to get Wilson Contreras, and which would be a great addition for them. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Christian Vasquez.
It's a good point, and I didn't necessarily think about it like that. I think, Idris, you probably would share my sentiment on this. Boston would love to feed our crosstown rivals some talent. What do you think, Idris?
Oh, yeah. Consider the situation in right now, last place under the Orioles. Oh, yeah. They would love nothing more to see us fall to the Mets. Yeah.
The Red Sox. in the thick of things a few weeks back. They were, and then they have just fallen off. You guys, I mean, I know you guys love the Yankees. If I'm the owner, of the Red Sox, hey, how about you want to get the Yankees? Hey, let's make some deals. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because if you can't,
what do you got to lose?
Way, there's another way to beat them.
Yeah. What do you got to lose?
It's like if the Jets are tanking out and we're chasing you, or vice versa, we're in the mix in the NFL. They're going to hit the Cowboys or the Eagles to stick it to us.
Because they have no beef with those two teams. Yeah,
exactly.
No beef with those two teams.
Exactly. Exactly. And, there's a lot of stuff that could keep going down. Here's a guy that surprised a lot of people by not wanting to come to New York initially when he left Japan. Do you guys think Ohtani really is getting traded, or do you think the Angels are just kind of teasing right now?
They're teasing.
I don't think they're necessarily teasing. I think it's due to the fact that while Ohtani is under contract for this year and next, the biggest question is going to be, does he want to stay in LA?
Right.
And when you have to think of it on the other side. You can simply sit there and say, we're not trading him, he's staying. Oh shit. There's no franchise tag in baseball.
Nope.
So you can't risk losing it all. So if I'm the Angels, you have to listen to offers. You have to. And if a team like the Yankees or if a team like the Mariners comes along and gives you a grand slam, you have to take it. It's the nature of the game. The Angels right now are a team that is not going anywhere.
If this was football, we'd call it similar to cap hell, because they gave Albert Pujols a massive contract, and let's be honest, it was too much. He wasn't the same player. Mike Trout's been rotting away there. I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Guys just haven't panned out. Joe Madden, who I think all of us at some point when we saw that hire were like, damn, that's a good move. He's not even managing them now. He got canned. They had an abysmal losing streak this year that got him canned. And, Ohtani, I don't see him in New York, though. I see him in the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast. Maybe Seattle if they give him enough. Maybe. But
and
I don't see the Angels setting up to. Yeah, I don't see the New York Yankees getting Ohtani at all. I mean, why would they? Nah.
I don't think he even wanted to be a Yankee.
Nah, I don't think so either. I think he'll stay west.
He might stay west, and the only reason why I don't see him staying west is because I find it hard to believe the Angels would trade him to Seattle, a division rival. But if they offer the best package, okay. Now, would they trade him to, say, the Padres or the Giants?
Oh yeah,
that then I could see that happening, because it always came down to distance to family. Japan from the West Coast compared to Japan from the East Coast, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah, that's very valid.
And the Padres, they're in the thick of things, man. So,
the Padres, they got the dark horse on them. Tatis hasn't even batted this year.
No. They're going to make a move, and I think it's expected. Padres are going to make a move or two. They're one of the final three teams in on Juan Soto. So if you're willing to go out there and get Juan Soto, that means you're willing to go out there and get Ohtani. That's the way I look at it. Because you're going to give up a king's ransom for Soto. You're going to give up a king's ransom for Ohtani. So I believe the Padres are working the phones. I believe they are going to land one of those players. But who knows? It's the Cardinals, the Padres, and the Dodgers. If the Dodgers go out there and they get Soto, the Padres, if I'm the Padres, I have to call and see if I can get Ohtani.
Got to get Ohtani.
I'll ask for a prediction from each of you.
You said where?
Idris, where do you have him going, man? I'm thinking I'll get a prediction out of each of you. And obviously this might not be resolved this year or even next year, but this is something that we'll speak on down the road. You'd like the Padres. I'm going to say the Giants.
Yeah. Yeah. Either one, but I'm more Padres. Yeah.
Are we saying for Soto or Ohtani?
Actually, I was referring to Ohtani. And, let's run it back with Soto after that. So who's your pick for –
Soto.
Soto, I believe, is going to be a Cardinal. I'm
saying an NL team, but
damn it, he froze again.
Yeah. I say the Cardinals would be a good choice because again, they're another team that's pushing. I
don't know. I think with Ohtani, I think it's almost prepackaged and just known that he's going to end up in the in California, stay in California, and if not California, Pacific Northwest. But with Soto, I think there's more possibilities because in Soto's case, I really believe that it is about the money, thoroughly about the money. Sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
I'm gonna throw.
We did get your last prediction, though.
Yeah, no, I believe Soto is going to be a Cardinal. I mean, it makes sense. The Dodgers, it makes sense. The Padres, but I think the Cardinals are the dark horse. I think the Cardinals get him. And what better story as they're saying goodbye to one of the greatest bats we have seen to bring in one of the youngest, greatest bats we have seen. So that's just me. I think it's going to be St. Louis, but I mean, time will tell.
That'd be a good choice.
Second most championships besides the Yankees. They got a great lineage there.
They have a great lineage there.
Yep.
Not to mention, I mean, Soto, he can handle any market. He can handle any market out there. But if he goes to the Cardinals, it's not going to be too bad,
I think it kind of blends in a little easier. Whereas if he goes to, say, the Giants, he instantly becomes the face. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be the face with the Cardinals, but those are fan bases where it takes a little more time. That if you land a superstar, not everybody is like in awe right away. When the Yankees got A-Rod, they were like, "Hey, pal, don't drop your bag. Can you go to third base now?"
Right. Yeah, and going back to A-Rod, I got to tip my hat off to A-Rod for when he was brought over, and he said, "If you put me at shortstop and remove Derek Jeter, I'm not playing." I got to tip my hat off to that guy for that because, I mean, that's awesome of him.
Well, he was the captain, and I think A-Rod knew what time it was. But A-Rod, I don't know. He's always been, like, interesting in the sense that does he really mean it? Does Captain Frosttip really mean it? I don't know if he really meant it. But you know what? He got paid a lot. So he said it. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that. We're getting into start, bench, cut, best MLB deadline deals. I've got 3 off the top of my head that I'm going to mention to you. There's a few extra details in there, so I'll go slow on this one. But we have, just bear with me a moment, CC Sabathia, 2008, Cleveland Indians, the former Cleveland Indians, to the Milwaukee Brewers. This is back when CC was a little thinner. Well, now he's in great shape again. And he was also hitting. This was the era still where, pitchers hit in the National League. And CC really did a lot for Milwaukee in that super limited time that he was there. Another deadline deal that we have, the Diamondbacks in the year 2000 acquiring Curt Schilling from the Phillies for 4 players. As Yankee fans, I think we know the impact that Schilling made there with Randy Johnson just a year later. And the final one I'm going for has to do with cracking a curse. And there are a lot of other ones that I can go into, but I'm going to keep it in 2004. The Boston Red Sox trading Nomar Garciaparra at the time that seemed like a very moronic trade for Doug Mankiewicz. And quite frankly, that particular trade really helped the Red Sox because defensively they just got so much better. So there's a lot to unpack here. Which one of you would care to go first here?
I'll go first. If you want a little more time, Idris?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to go first, and I'm going to start off with my cut. Right off the bat, I'm going to cut this one because there was no World Series result, and that's the CC Sabathia trade. I'm going to cut that one. And it was, he was with the Brewers short time. He did a lot more with the Yankees. He was great with the Indians or the Guardians today. But I have to say that one is my cut. Now, as far as my bench, I was going to start. I just had a brain fart. What was the second one again?
We had the Nomar Garcia Parrott trade.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to start that one. What was the other one? You had Nomar, and then I cannot remember.
Schilling to Arizona.
Schilling. Okay, so I was going to start Schilling to Arizona because the impact that trade had with the D-backs coming out, they won a World Series. Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson together were monsters. And you throw in Luis Gonzalez's bat, as well as Craig Counsell. They had some great hitters on that team, but Curt Schilling was the missing piece. Boston, Nomar Garciaparra was loved. He was absolutely loved in that city. And when he got traded to LA, it shocked the baseball world. Let's be real. It shocked the baseball world. A lot of people thought it set that franchise back.
Hang on 1 second on that one, Zap. It was actually, LA was the next move. It was actually Orlando Cabrera and Doug Mankiewicz, initially from the Cubs, and then he ended up in LA. So the actual trade was actually to the Cubs. But yes, Nomar was a premier shortstop at the time. You go right ahead. You got it.
So anyway, it doesn't change anything for me. The Red Sox gave up Nomar, and they brought in some talent to build on their defense. And what was the ultimate? We all know what happened. The curse is finally broken. So for that reason, I'm going with that one as my start. I'm going to bench Curt Schilling and in that trade. And ultimately, what else helped out the curse was Curt Schilling going to Boston as well. We have the Bloody Sox, and it was a Game 6 against the Yankees. So, that's what I'm going with in that order. I'm going to go with the Red Sox. As much as you guys probably hate me saying that, I believe that one is the start.
We do right now.
It impacted. It has impacted that team greatly. Where now Boston has been a franchise that has been winning, and they have multiple World Series to back it. So that's my answer. I cut CC, I bench Curt, and I start the Nomar trade.
All right, Idris, you are up.
I'm cutting CC. Good as he was, they couldn't win nothing. He did what he had to do, but the Brew Crew just didn't have enough. I'm benching Schilling in Boston. They won a few. Yeah, whatever, man.
So basically that
they did what they think. But
Schilling hang on 1 second, Idris. Zappy did bring up Schilling in Boston, but the actual start bench cut option was the Nomar deal, which sent him to Chicago for Cabrera and Mankiewicz.
Yeah. No,
He made a point about Schilling. Same time frame, but just you can throw him in there too if you choose to, because it was kind of the same time frame.
Yeah. Either way, they're getting benched. Either way, getting benched.
Okay.
I'm keeping Arizona. The trade with Schilling in Arizona. Him and the big unit. They took down a real good Yankee team, and if you look at that pitch, it was basically those two. They went in there and they pitched lights out, just a couple of days rest, and they took down a Yankee team that that team was deep, man. Took them 7 games, and what more can you say? He went there and did his job, man. He did more than his job. I think he pitched.
He pitched 3 games.
I think he pitched
in that
a few
series.
games started, and I think he came in for relief a couple of times. I remember. Him and Unit was out there for a while. So
yeah. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Yeah,
because both of you made solid points. You don't have the same winner.
Right.
Idris is leaning towards the Diamondbacks because of the 1-2 dominance. Zappy was leaning towards the Boston trades of 04 or the trade of 04 in the Garcia Parra deal. I'm veering towards Idris, and I'll explain why. And it's not because of me being a Yankee fan, because we fell victim to both those teams. The truth of the matter is that when I think about 2004, and I think about the fact that the Yankees were up 3-0, and the fact that the Yankees had a winning record against them in the regular season, and the fact that they won the East, I felt that the Yankees were better than the Red Sox. I think it took quite a few, how would I even say this, just crazy events for all of that to come to fruition. Obviously, it starts with the Dave Roberts steal. Everything kind of snowballed into, oh my God, we can do this. And it all started with one game. When the Yankees won 19-8 in Game 3, did I think the Red Sox might take one, maybe two? Of course, they're a good team. But did I think they were going to come back and do what they did? Fuck no. The reason it was over. The reason why I take Arizona in this is because I might not agree with a lot of Yankee fans on this, but in 2001, I don't believe we were the better team. And if we were the better team, those two exploited us to the point where we couldn't get it done. And we almost did. Game 7, Alfonso Soriano's, what at the time we thought was going to be the World Series hero, he ended up giving us the lead, and the greatest closer in Major League Baseball gives up a couple of cheap hits. And the rest is history. Luis Gonzalez, it was tough as New Yorkers, coming off the heels of 9/11. I think more than any other season, we really wanted them to win that year. And it was one of those few times where I think most of the country was actually rooting for the Yankees, where that's not always a thing. Because similar to his team in football, the Yankees kind of have that same aura in baseball. I take Idris for the win on a very close one because of the fact that I just happen to agree that the Diamondbacks, that just made them over the top more. And also because of the fact that they mowed down a team going for a four-peat, whereas the Red Sox mowed down a team that was in transition. I think that's the best way to put it.
To piggyback what you just said, I do believe the Yankees were the better team. I believe they were the best team. I mean, that lineup from top to bottom, then you throw in Roger, Mike Mussino, some great pitchers in there. I think it was just Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson pitched their lives out and ultimately won that series, because you find me a weakness in that Yankee lineup.
Yeah.
You couldn't find one. You could not find. They were the better team. But in that series, it literally took the arms of two men, two pitchers, to go out there and win that series. So,
and I remember the icon that came up. I was watching that game with my late father, and the icon that came up is that they were showing teams that four-peated or did more than four. And the list was very short. You had the New York Islanders, you had the Yankees of the 50s, you had the Montreal Canadiens, and you had Bill Russell's Boston Celtics. And the Yankees just missed jumping into that air of phenomenal, legendary teams. But you know something? And that's another reason why I picked the Diamondbacks, because of the impact of what they prevented.
You know what? Another reason I have never watched the highlights of that World Series with the Red Sox.
Oh, dude!
Never.
Dude, I remember when they did it. I
watched
the TV before the last out.
I did too.
Oh my God, that was depressing.
I never watched the highlights. I've never watched the highlights.
I'll never forget where I was. I was at the Ale House watching every game. I was at the Ale House, and I sat here, well, not here, but there, and 3-0. It was like, this series is over. I was with a few friends that were all Yankees fans, and I'm just, I'm the man that's just sitting there watching some baseball. And like you said, that Dave Roberts steal, and it's like, oh, what's going on here? They take game 4, and then 5, and then Poppy just starts hitting the ball, and everyone, and
Manny killed us too.
Yeah, Manny was my favorite baseball player during that time. So, which was going to lead me to my next thing. I mean, yes, I went with what I went with the 2004 trade. Mm-hmm. But I guess the one thing to remember is the Red Sox made other moves too to make that team turn into the team they are. So,
It was a weird turn of events during those 4 fateful days or 5 fateful days, given a travel day. Kevin Brown broke his hand or injured his hand. He pitched. There was a lot of weird shit that happened. But then you go to the year before when Grady Little tried to plunk out Pedro, and Pedro was like, go fuck off. And then Aaron Boone hits a walk-off off of Wakefield. And that just even enhanced the whole Babe Ruth curse thing. And while we talk about Babe Ruth quickly, I want your guys' quick opinion on this before we get out of here. Got about 5 minutes. Aaron Judge is continuing that home run pursuit. The man behind me, standing next to Mickey Mantle, is the Yankee franchise leader, Mr. Roger Maris. Then we, of course, have Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and Barry Bonds on the single-season all-time list of leaders. Bonds and McGwire have appeared on that more than once. Can Aaron Judge break the Yankee record? Will he? What do you think, guys? Give me a number. We have plenty of time on future shows to really smash on this. Where's he going to finish?
I'm giving him 62, man.
Ooh,
I think he'll get it. I think he'll barely get it, or he'll tie it. I don't think he'll smash it.
Yeah, people are going to start pitching around him as he gets closer. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. I think, for one, baseball needs this. Baseball needs Aaron Judge to go out there, and they need him to hit more than 61, not more than 73. We're talking about him going up against 3 players that were all during the steroid era. I'm one of those fans that stand by this, that the home run record is 61, not just with the Yankees, but in Major League Baseball. I am one of those fans because I do believe steroids had a lot to do with it. Aaron Judge's swing is a thing of beauty. When he's healthy, he is quite possibly the best baseball player out there. What he's doing right now is unbelievable. I think he's going to break the Yankee record, and I think that city needs it. I see him finishing with 66, 67 home runs, which will bring on.
No!
I'm going to tell Zappy when we come back on another show in the near future, he's got to get a little closer to the house. It's got to be the garage. It's got to be.
It's got to be. I think he'll get 62. If he smashes it.
Shit, he's back. He's back as quick as he disappeared.
Oh, shit.
I kicked him when he just appeared. I'm going to leave him be. My bad. Go ahead, Idris.
Oh, yeah. I think it'd be nice if he hit more. But I want him to do it. I kind of want him to do it in less than 162 games. Oh, he's back. Go ahead. You got it. The floor is yours.
All right. So, anyways, to finish it off, I still think there's a possibility that he can get to the 73 and break that one. He's got to have to continue. But like Richie said, they're going to start pitching around him soon. I have to look at the schedule for the Yankees to finish off the year. Fact is, you don't want to be that team that gives up the 61st or the 62nd home run. And you definitely don't want to be that team that gives up the 73rd or 74th home run. So will it happen? I think he beats 61, and I do think he finishes with 66 or 67. Will he beat 73? Probably not, but I think this is a topic we will revisit in about a month.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be very hot, especially around that time if he, God willing, he stays healthy and is still chasing this. In closing, my prediction is that he's going to land exactly on 68, not quite getting to 73. But my hope is that he vanquishes that 73, so that way we can get that stink out of that record, because that record deserves the credibility of that. He's Zappy, and he is Idris. I'm Richie. We'll be back soon. Not for you to see, though, because we're going to be doing some previews and some work for our NFL rollout. A lot of NFL coming back. We are close. Had a great time talking with you. Zappy scared me a few times. He had those frozen shots similar to a Bernie Lomax, but he finished strong. I was telling Idris it could just be maybe because you're in the garage. Maybe he's got to get a few feet closer to wherever the router is. Who knows?
I have 4 children.
Yeah, he has 4 children. That's all you need to know.
Every device
Okay,
yeah,
has
no.
Wi-Fi.
We are out.